Moscow's envoy to the UN has said that Russia will be holding a ceasefire and it will open humanitarian corridors today.
The ceasefire will take place at 10 a.m. Moscow time, which is 12:30 p.m. Indian time, and permit the evacuation of citizens from Kyiv, Chernihiv, Sumy and Mariupol.
So 13 days, 3 rounds of talks, but no change in the situation on ground. Civilians in Ukraine continue to pay the price of the Russian assault. And today, Russia has once again announced a ceasefire for safe evacuation of civilians after the last ceasefire failed in no time.
13 people were killed in shelling on Ukrainian industrial bakery. Meanwhile, Russian army is continuing its advance towards the capital, Kyiv. So situation continues to be grim when it comes to Ukraine. However, once again, Russia today has announced a ceasefire, which is going to begin at 12:30 p.m. Indian time, and the ceasefire is going to be held in 4 cities specifically, where evacuation of citizens will be allowed, and these cities include Kyiv, Chernihiv, Sumy and Mariupol. Just to remind our viewers that it's been 13 days that Ukraine was attacked by Russia. Several rounds of talks have been held, but there is no change in the situation on ground. Let me go across to Srinjoy for more details on this. Srinjoy, good morning. First of all, I really want to understand the strategy that has been adopted by Russia when it comes to ceasefire. For the past few days, we have seen that Russia has multiple times announced ceasefire only to violate it later. Again, today we are going to see the similar kind of situation. What exactly is in Russia's mind? Why exactly the bid to open humanitarian corridors for evacuation of civilians is not being successful?
Well, the important point is that this is a war situation. To open a corridor is really not just about one country or even 2 countries. There are here people on the ground who may not even know that it has been decided to have a ceasefire. People may not even know, because the important point to note is that a war situation is always, and most of the time when in situations like this, you have not just full-time soldiers, you have irregulars, you have snipers. Many people may not even have had the information sent. A sniper may, for instance, be in sitting in a little place for the last 1 week, and no information would have got to him. So it's a very, very complicated situation and a very chaotic situation. It's not easy to have a ceasefire. But if there is one today, particularly in Sumy, this is something India will welcome enormously, because if that happens, then very clearly that possibility of pulling out 700 people in Sumy would become a reality. This is something we tried yesterday, it failed. Now there is one more opportunity to do it. President Macron, the French president, has spoken with President Putin, the Russian president, and this has got sorted out. So hopefully this will happen. And if it does happen today, it would be a huge bonus for India, because there are 700 Indians still in Sumy. They want to get out. They are concentrated in 2 areas. And that is luckily where there is not much fighting. But if you have to get out of Sumy towards safety, then you will have to go through what is being called a contact point. A contact point is where the fighting is taking place. Now it becomes very risky to move 14 or 15 buses full of 700 people through contact points. That is the worry, and that is a risk that cannot be taken. Now we will have to see how it works out today, because it is still very difficult. It is still very dangerous. But if there is a feasible ceasefire today, then hopefully these 750 or 700 Indians will be rescued.
Right, Srinjoy, very important point that you're making here, because because we, of course, are tracking all the developments when it comes to rescuing the 700 Indian citizens who are, in fact, stranded in Sumy. However, we have to also talk about the so-called peace talks that happened. The third one, so to speak, inconclusive again, while Russia is saying that their demands haven't really been met and it has not gone as per expectations. Ukraine, on the other hand, did in fact say that there were small positive developments. What do we make out of conversations that are, happening in the wake of these peace talks? And do you think this is really the way forward?
Well, peace talks are the way forward. There is no other option. There is clearly, if you want peace, then you have to have talks. You have to sit at a table and sort things out. The fact that there is some movement, at least one side is saying there is some positive movement, is a plus. Because if you remember the first talks and the second talks, they led to nothing. So at least one side is saying that something good has come out of it, and it's the Ukrainian side that is saying so. So that's a positive. The important thing is very little has been done and a lot remains to be done. So there will be a fourth round and a fifth round, hopefully, and at one point, something positive will come out of it. The most important thing that India is hoping for is a ceasefire. Even last night, T.S. Tirumurti, the permanent representative of the United Nations, has spoken about it, said that, look, yeah, whatever else you do, have peace first, then have diplomatic discussions. That is what India wants. That is what the world wants. So the important point is both countries have different objectives. So at the end of the day, their objectives or a minimum of their objectives have to be fulfilled. Only then can they come back and say, yes, we've made a forward progress. Now we have to see how things work out in the fourth round and the subsequent rounds. But if there is a ceasefire today, it is imperative for India to get all the Indians in Sumy out.
Right, Srinjoy, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. Very important points that Srinjoy is making. We have to actually wait for the consecutive round of talks between Russia and Ukraine and see how this really transpires on ground. Now, as